Good evening, everyone, on the MYBC Consulting Facebook page on a Wednesday night. And I'm so super duper grateful that Takara was able to change her schedule. Excuse me, I got a little bug flying around in front of me. It looked like a dust bunny, but it was actually a little bug flying in front of me. For the MYBC Virtual Bookstore Author Series, you know, the fun little show or vlog that you can call it, that I pull together people that are authors, illustrators, publishers, everywhere in between, so you too can learn what it means to write a book and what it means, or so you understand how I love to honor the literary world in my life. So hello, Takara. How are you tonight, my beautiful friend?
I'm feeling fabulous, and yeah, we just pivoted on to Wednesday. Here we are.
So it's like a hump day of knowledge, because some people call Wednesdays a hump day. So it's a hump day of knowledge. So why don't we get into, though, first of all, I'm going to pause because I always forget. If you have any questions for Takara during this whole process, I do use Zoom over to Facebook where I don't see questions. However, if you have any questions for Takara, please put them in the Facebook link, in the Facebook comments, and Takara will come back afterwards and make sure to answer any of those questions out there. So if you've got a burning question, pop it into the Facebook comments. So thank you for tuning in. So let's get into, who is Takara and how does one say your last name?
Takara Shelor.
Okay, and what's your background? Like, what have you been doing that has led you to be a 4-time best-selling author, helping thousands of people, and be a publisher all at the same time?
So it begins with being an engineer. Okay.
Oh.
But even before I was an engineer, even in junior high school, I used to pretend to be an author, like for real. Like, you know, in the law of attraction and manifesting, they're like, pretend, you know, go to the car dealership and test out the car so you know what it feels like, and, you know, try to bring it into your reality. Well, I knew I wanted to be an author. And so my dad had one of those huge typewriters, the big clunky ones that weighed a ton, you know, and I'd get this big stack of paper. I couldn't type. Right? This was years ago when we didn't know how to type yet. We had to learn how to type. There was a class, right? So I'd take this little piece of paper and I'd stick it in and I'd crank the thing and I'd just type away, fill up the whole page, so proudly take the paper out and lay it down and do it again. Because I just knew I wanted to be an author at some point. So I put myself through college and became an engineer. And in the process of doing that, I was the editor for a national magazine for engineers. And so I started my editing background in publishing then. And then when I was 33, I left engineering, I left being a manager, and I just headed off into entrepreneur land. And I began writing ebooks, which I sold on my website. You could just download them as PDFs. And then in 2012, I wrote my first book. In print, you know, I put my first one in print, and I got that to the number 2 in a category without really aiming for a bestseller. I was just working through studying all the things you need to know in order to publish and launch a book, you know, the interior design, the cover design, like I was learning the thing. But with my engineering background, I was sort of creating a system all along the way. I was making checklists and I was making spreadsheets, and how do you treat it like a project and get it from beginning to end, you know? And so right after that, I gathered a group of people and I ran a multi-author book collaboration all around a theme of dolphins and whales, and people that have had really special experiences with them through meditation or live, where we're like meeting a dolphin or whale literally changed their life. That's what that whole book is about. And then so I started helping other authors, and I became an author coach, and I kept writing my own books. And that's sort of how I knew from the beginning that I was going to ultimately end up being an author, but I didn't really know I was going to get into publishing.
So there's lots of great stuff for in there for me to, as I like to say in the interview world, unpack. There's lots of great stuff for me to unpack there. So I'm going to dial it back to you being the editor of the engineering magazine. I'm going to dial it back a little bit because I want to understand your personal skill set abilities journey.
Mhm.
And you had somebody come to you that wrote an article. Obviously, you didn't write all the articles for the magazine.
No.
And they came to you with their short story, their article for the magazine. What did that relationship look like? Like, what was your process, and how did you say, you know what, Bob, and what did that look like?
So the way that worked is I put myself through school by being a typist. Okay.
Okay.
At first, I didn't know how to do it. And then when I went to typing school, I became the best in my class. And I really think that's because I practiced it all the time in my mind. We traveled a lot when I was a kid. And once I learned to type, you know, driving down the freeway, mile after mile after mile, there's all these signs. And I would, in my head, pretend to move my fingers. And I was typing out all the words on all the signs, like practicing in my brain. And because I used to do piano as well, I just think I have this quick eye-hand coordination thing for typing fairly quickly and all that. And so I became a secretary in industrial engineering at Virginia Tech. And I was working for 3 different professors, and it was a large building. There were lots of professors there in this one department. And it quickly got determined that I was the best one at proofreading. And so they all brought to me, like, you know, these things are really technical with all these equations, you know, it's engineering. I mean, it is not pretty, you know, but some of the other secretaries would bring the stuff to me. If it was extremely complicated, they would have me proof it before they, you know, gave it back to the professor they worked for. And so because I got that reputation, the professor who was really in charge of the magazine nationally sort of brought me on board to do this. So that's kind of how I got the gig, because I was really good at editing. And so, you know, between he and I, there was decisions about what would go in it. You know, was this one appropriate for this issue? And then I would do all that proofreading and stuff that I had, you know, just sort of a natural talent for.
So if you had to give critical feedback, because now that loops to your end, your publisher now, and if you have to give critical feedback or celebration feedback, because it's always good to get a little bit of celebration feedback when somebody pours their heart out onto a page. What was that like? Because the reason why I ask is I truly believe you're about the 70th person in this last, you know, since this venture started at the end of December 2020, that someone's going to watch this. And that's the stumbling piece that they're going to get. It's like, oh, I don't know if I could take that critical feedback, or I don't know if I could take it, the editor come back and it's like yellow, whatever that looks like. I've never written a book. So what that looks like, so that's not the stumbling block for them to to get it out. So how did you deliver critical feedback when you had to edit something?
So let me talk about how I did it then and how I do it now.
Perfect.
And how it was done to me, because that made a huge difference. That made a huge
love that.
Back in the day, this was a very technical thing. This was not like people's stories. These were technical documents with like, this is how this machine works, and this is this fancy schmancy technology, and you know. So really what I needed to explain to people is like, this isn't like, can you word this in a way that's more understandable for people that are not necessarily in your specific niche of your field, right? They're all industrial engineers that are going to read this, but this is not, you know, so that's really what I was looking for. Like, I would just flat out reword things, fixing grammar, fixing spelling, because engineers are notorious. Scientists and engineers cannot spell. You know, it's just a thing. There are those who can, obviously, but I mean, it's kind of a given that a lot of them can't. And so you just roll with it, you know, and so you don't send that back to them. You just fix it for them, you know.
Right.
But when I had my first book to put in print, you know, it's really, really difficult. So I want people to hear this. It's very, very difficult to edit your own work because you're so close to it. You're not really reading it. You know, unless you do what, one of the things I recommend is like, you finish whatever you're writing, whether it's an article or a chapter or the whole book, and you set it aside as long as you possibly can. You know, a month is ideal, but not everybody has a timeline that fits that, right? But you put it
Okay.
aside as long as you possibly can, and then you bring it back, and then you might see things with fresh eyes. But if you've poured over this thing and poured over this thing and poured over this thing, when you read it, you're not really reading it because it's already in your head, right? So you really do need that outside person, you know? And so what I did is I looked for what I like 10 to 20 beta readers, knowing that it wasn't about what's the finished product, but, you know, and I really was looking for feedback from people that really varied. I wanted people who were very well read and people who hardly read at all. I wanted people who read that genre all the time and people that almost never did, right? And I had a questionnaire that I created for them. And I was like, you know, is there anywhere that you got stuck? Is there anything you didn't understand? Were there redundancies? You know, and just feel free to make comments about anything you want to. And so I had these probably 15 people go through this stuff. And in my own mind, I decided, okay, if only one person in this group of 15 decides that this is a problem, then it's up to me to determine if that's true. But if more than one person points it out, clearly it needs some work. Okay, so that's just how I did it from there. And then I took it to a professional. Then I took it to a professional editor, and that person shredded it. She absolutely, I mean, there were red comments. I mean, you know, there was not room for all the comments in the thing. And that's hard. Okay. That's really hard because this is your baby. You don't, I mean, it's really hard, but here's what I tell you, what I'm going to say. For me personally, I knew the fact that she shredded it meant that now it's going to be great. Like if I go back and we're taking a good work, because I know it was good, okay, but I wanted something great. I wanted something that was well written, that was easy to understand, that had moved along. You know, it was a self-help book, so some of those are just really dry, you know. And one of the things she said is, you don't really find your voice until page 40. Well, I told a really great story at page 40. And so I knew she was right. I knew the beginning of the book had problems. It was a little dry and boring. I didn't know what to do with it. But she said, why don't you just tell that story sooner? So I moved it up front, you know, and then I sprinkled some more stories in. So she was so helpful, and the book is so much better. So it's like, yes, it's your baby, but it's about letting this baby become the best that it can possibly be. And only these other people can help us do that. We cannot do that on our own. That's how I look at editing. So I try to be gentle, you know.
Yeah, it's a cool analogy when I kind of think, because I've never written a book, though I've raised projects, worked on projects, as well as I've watched people with babies. Everybody always says it's that baby analogy. So when a new baby comes into the world, you have your aunts, your uncles, your cousins, your mom, your dad, all giving you advice on how to raise the baby. And it's because of their experiences versus their expertise. And when you find that, say, either pediatrician or parenting coach, or the person who has like poured their life heart into wanting to learn that subject to produce great children out there, and then you finally go, you know what? I think I'm going to call a child psychologist, or I'm going to call a child parent, and all your friends are like, wow, you're really taking this seriously.
Right. Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, because I want the best for my child. So
yeah,
I love the fact that you love my child.
Yes.
It needs to go to a higher source, a higher purpose with someone with expertise.
Exactly.
So that's really, no one has described it like that. So thank you very much, Takara.
You're welcome.
Takara, sorry.
No, Takara. Yeah.
Well, so now let's fast forward to you've got your books, you've got it going out there. How did you go about, did you self-publish or publish through a publisher, your first books?
The first books are all self-published, and now I have, well, you know, even with the first one, I already had a company because I was an entrepreneur. I already had a company. So I just went down to my local, you know, business, you know, the city people. And I was just like, I want to do a DBA as a publishing name. So I paid $10. That's what it cost me to do a DBA, doing business
Right.
as, under a business I already owned. So I got to have a little publishing name, you know, and it was whatever my business was at the time with the word publishing at the end. Okay. And that way I could get checks from that, from Amazon. I could, you know, whatever.
Okay.
Since that time, I've brought in my son. We rebranded everything because he's into fiction. You know, I do nonfiction, I do self-help, I do personal empowerment, spiritual growth kind of stuff. My son is all about heavy duty science and science fiction and very big world building in fantasy. And he studied really in depth all of that dialogue and character development and world building and all this stuff. And so we decided to put it together so he can coach fiction authors. I can coach nonfiction authors. We both do editing, you know, and so we rebranded as our company name now, which is Deep Dive Publishers. And we did the same thing. We have a DBA as Deep Dive Publishers under a big umbrella company that encompasses all of the, the things that I do. So everything that I started with was self-published, and now we help other authors either self-publish themselves, where we coach them through all the stages of doing that themselves, or we provide whatever services they need, or we help them find the right people to do it if they don't want us to do it. We help, you know, we sort of just do a lot of coaching with people.
So you've, I've looked on your website, did some very high level digging into what you're all about. Who would you say has been your biggest success story in helping somebody getting published with an unusual topic that it has been published?
Well, like we've published some, I mean, we, you know, they either self-publish or we publish it for them under our label. Okay. Gosh, I'm trying to think. I've done a few memoirs. I mean, and one of the most interesting, I mean, they're all really super interesting. I only choose to actually put on our label books that I feel really strongly are fabulous. Okay. The stories, like the reason we call it deep dive is it's like messages that matter. We're diving deep into subjects that matter, you know? And so one of the most interesting is a 2-book series. It took that long to tell the story of this memoir. And it's about a woman's 20 years in Afghanistan. As an American woman from Brooklyn, she spent 20 years in the, you know, over there in Afghanistan. And she was there when there was the rise of the Taliban and the invasion of the Russians, and how life changed dramatically for all the people. She married 2 different noblemen from there. The first one was killed, and she ended up marrying another nobleman from there. She almost died 3 times. Like, it is a really wild and true story. And what she does so beautifully is, you know, they're all Muslim. They're all, but it's how they practiced it and how they, you know, what their beliefs are. As an American, I had no idea what it really stands for. You know, I had no idea of the tenets and how they behave and how they treat one another. She dives way into that. She talks about the food. She talks about the culture, the customs. You feel like you're traveling with her, because when she was traveling there, she actually kept diaries, kept journals the whole time, and took a lot of photos. You know, and it was a long time ago that all that happened, but because she had such a detailed thing of it, you know, we were able to turn it into a book. And so that's one of the most interesting, is that 2-book series. Yeah, it's really fascinating.
So again, I'm somebody out there who's got similar kind of story. I'm pretending similar kind of story, start to finish, 2 books, working with a publisher, back and forth editing, cover design, all the good stuff before Takara goes, here you go, Sally. Here's your, you know, here's your books. What's the timeline like on something like that? Because you said it kind of took 2.
It's a lot. That was a lot of work, and part of that is, you know, this woman is in her 70s. So she wasn't, you know, because this happened a long time ago, right? So this wasn't I'm working on it constantly all the time. I'm working on it when I can. And so it took quite a long time. And I don't remember the time frame. She'd been working on it. She'd been working on the writing of it for about 20 years when I got involved. You know, and then we got really serious about, okay, let's reword this and let's move this around, and let, you know, I helped her structure it a little better and do all the things that, you know, a good writing coach would do. But it was a long process with that one. Yeah, because of the amount of time she had available to work. Some projects, I mean, what I tell people about their book projects is, you know, most people spend like 6 months to 2 years or so writing a book, and then the rest of their life is about promoting it, you know, and working. I mean, that's the deal, you know, your job really begins when the book is finished and you're out there and you're trying to get people to find out about it. Yeah.
So with that being said, great segue. What's the book that you have on my screen? It's to your right. I'm not sure where it's sitting on your side.
Do my little
your Vanna White,
whatever that was, right? Yeah. So this is my latest book. Okay. And it's called Unleash Your Future. It is co-written by Mark Boldazar. He came to me as an author client. Okay, he came to me with an idea to write a book about how the law of attraction really works, how manifesting actually occurs. And the more that he talked to me about his ideas and he was trying to flesh them out as we had, you know, meeting after meeting after meeting, I kept sharing with him my experiences because I've been manifesting successfully for about 40 years. Okay. And so he started really liking some of the things I had to say. And so eventually he invited me to collaborate on the book. And so we put this book together. And it's endorsed by Jack Canfield. It received the must-read seal of approval from Law of Attraction magazine. There are people who teach manifesting and law of attraction who say it's the best book they've ever read on the subject. So I'm super proud of it. It's my blood, sweat, and tears, for real. I mean,
so let's use a little bit of your energy, and hopefully you're not going to cry when you're doing this. I love the back of books.
Okay.
I would love for you to read the back of your book.
This particular book. Okay.
Yep.
Boy. So what that's going to take is this, or I could switch glasses. These glasses don't reflect on a Zoom call, but they don't have high enough resolution for me to actually do reading very well.
Okay. So I just feel that so many times we go to bookstores or use bookstores, or you're looking on Amazon to read something, and very few people, much like in life, will go, I love the name of your company, by the way, Deep Dive. Go a deep dive, meaning turn the book over and don't just judge it by the first little blurby blurbs, especially in the self-help business book area. We tend to only read, oh, can it help me with sales, or can it help me go, you know, meditate? And it's like, oh no, but we got to pick people. We got to, like relationships, we got to pick them up, turn them over, right, in order for you to get to know truly what the story is. So please share the back of your book.
All right. So it begins with the how-to guide that will help you experience more success and accelerate your journey from where you are to where you want to be. That's by Jack Canfield, America's #1 success coach and co-author of the #1 New York Times best-selling Chicken Soup for the Soul series. Have you tried using the law of attraction, in parentheses, LOA, but failed to manifest results? Do you want more life? Oh, sorry. Do you want more from life, but don't know how to get it? Do you see the success of others, but think it's not possible for you? You're not alone. Most people have little success with LOA. Why? Because they haven't found a simple how-to guide that shows them exactly how to program the universe to create the life of their dreams. That is, until now. Unleash Your Future combines success hacker Mark Boldazar's science-based study of LOA with best-selling author Takara Shelor's engineering and metaphysical understanding. They bring you a refreshing new look at how to manifest all that you desire in a practical and easy-to-use system. Here's what you'll find in Unleash Your Future: what the law of attraction is, and more importantly, is not. The 5-step, simple and reliable formula for manifesting more of what you want. The hidden force in the universe that is constantly working against you. Why change is so hard and what you can do to make it easier. the single most important thing you need to conquer your lack of success. You'll also learn the power of taking the right actions and how to know which ones those are, how your true desires and definition of success may have been stolen, what limitations are sabotaging your ability to achieve what you want most, the specifics around why manifesting has and has not worked for you in the past, how to, in quotation marks, game the system so that you get more of what you want and less of what you don't. Who knew that if you married simple science with manifesting, you'd get a formula that actually works? Unleash Your Future is sure to become the practical, results-driven instruction manual you've been waiting for.
I love that. I must get that book because I was just in a meeting earlier today with some local business people here, and we were talking about analytics. I love some numbers. I love how the numbers work, and I also love the emotion connected to the numbers of the humanity where the analytics come from. And I love that approach. You are correct, Takara. I have not ever. I'm a big law of attraction person, ever heard of the science part of it. That's fantastic.
Yeah, we created a formula. It took us quite a while to boil it down, but we came up with a formula that has 5 components. And when they're put together properly, if you try to achieve a goal and you don't achieve it, you can go right back to the formula and you can dial in. You know exactly what didn't happen. You know which one of these 5 things didn't work right, and you can then correct and try again,
Oh, excellent. We're coming down to the end. I always like to keep this like a nice little, tight or a loose 30 minutes. And I'd love to ask this question. Who do you think this book will be a good gift for? Name 3 people that off the top of your head that you think would be a good gift for.
Kids that just finished high school or college.
Ooh, good. Okay.
Because they need to figure out who they are and what they want in the world. Okay. Anyone that's at a crossroads looking to make a new change and they haven't figured it out, or they've made a decision about what they want to do, but they really don't know how about going about getting it, getting it to happen. And anyone that's worked with law of attraction, tried to work with law of attraction or manifesting. I mean, there's a statistic that 90%, I want to say, of the people, I think it's 90. I just did it. I have it right here in front of me. Hold on. Did I write it down? 90%. Okay. There was a huge study of where they polled people that have tried law of attraction and conscious manifestation. How satisfied or dissatisfied were they with the results they were getting? 90% are dissatisfied. Okay. That is a whole lot of people attempting and failing to get the results. And so it's for anybody that's, they're jaded though a little bit. They're afraid to try something else because nothing else works. So they're kind of given up in some ways. But if you still have hope and you still want to have dreams, but you just don't know how to get them, this is definitely a great thing to do. Yeah.
And after hearing your story about the book, I love to give suggestions as well. And I'm going to go to the concrete people that need to have this book in their library. And I'm going to say a naturopath. I'm going to say a holistic healer, because there's certain times that when you are a patient of that particular holistic health, your patient comes with terminology or words, or like we call, and sometimes in the business, the woo-woo of it.
Yes.
But you're able to speak to what they're after in a very, again, holistic way. And I'm also going to say a career counselor. I think for that artistic person that's incredibly creative, to kind of give them a guide, because sometimes when we're creative, we just don't know how to put it into practice. And if we have kind of that methodology, a little bit of a system where we don't lose our gift, that we have it. So I'm going to say a career counselor out there to be able to read it, because the world of social media is kind of feeding us these terminologies, but but to have the right way in order to say coach it back in order
Yeah.
for excellence. I think it would be a really good book for a career counselor as well. So to wrap this up, Takara, what do you say to those people that either A, want to get a book edited, or B, find a publisher, or C, you can choose, write a book? What would you say to the world?
We help all those people. We help every one of those people. So the first thing I'd say is, you know, regardless of which one of those you're falling under, it's like writing a book is a passion project. You know? It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of energy, and in certain cases it takes a fair amount of money to get it properly edited, to get a nice cover done, to do some of the marketing for it once you put it out. And so, you know, really know that you're really committed to doing it is one of the things that I would say. And the other one is there are a lot of people that can help you. You know, there is a lot of coaches, there's a lot of publishing companies, there's a lot of editors out there. And so my suggestion is that you listen to them, have a conversation with them, because chances are really good that you're going to have a, you know, a fairly involved relationship with any of these people you decide to go with. You need to like them. You know, there needs to be rapport. And so I would suggest that you know, kind of go out there and meet a lot of these people and see how you like, you know, the other work that they've done, and them as a person, how they speak, how they communicate with you, and all of those sorts of things.
Great advice. Great advice. Thank you for your words of wisdom. And again, I'm so incredibly grateful you were able to clear a half an hour of your schedule from, where are you located again? I forgot to ask you that. Virginia. I've never been there, so I may come knock on your door and come buy a book in person.
Sounds great.
One of these days. So thank you again so much. Please stick around when I go off, because I like to take a nice little Aussie shot for the thumbnail for YouTube. So there you go, guys. A very interesting story from starting at a typewriter, pretending to write a book, to now helping people write their books, edit their books, design their books, and also be an author at the same time. Anything is possible. So I always wrap this up by saying, my bookshelves are over here. Grab a book off the shelf, get your favorite beverage, favorite place you like to read, take your mind, body, and soul to another place and learn through the words of somebody else. So again, thank you again for tuning in if you did watch live, and if you are watching this on the replay, I'm so grateful that you tune in and learn and honor the literary world like I do on the MYBC Virtual Bookstore Author Series. Thank you, everybody.